Hello and welcome to Cascadia Mountain Weather. It's Thursday, September 7th, 2023. My name is Kyle McCrone and I'm here with Wyatt Mullen. We're two mountain enthusiasts and weather nerds based in Western Washington. We know that weather goes far beyond the simple forecast from a weather app or website. So in this video series, we're going to dive into details with weekly forecasts for the Cascade and Olympic Mountains, helping you make sense of the complex interactions between mountains, weather, and your plans. Additionally, we will highlight other relevant local weather storylines and facts. So Wyatt's going to get us started with the weekend weather forecast.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. So first I'm going to do just like a general overview of what the weekend will look like, and then we'll talk a little bit about kind of the fire and the smoke, because that's one of the features that's really been impacting our weather the most over the last couple of weeks to almost a month now. And then I'll go a little bit more into depth about like what's going on this weekend and kind of continue from there. So right now we're just looking at the general pattern overview that's ongoing. If you look onto the right side of your screen, you'll see the hurricane that is currently building out in the Atlantic, and that's some of the transitions that are occurring. But we'll switch right now to, this is a forecast, the National Weather Service forecast for Snoqualmie Pass. The general idea about this weekend is that Friday and Saturday are going to be the best days, and Sunday is still going to be a good day. But if you're out towards the water, especially like in the Olympics, you might run into a couple of showers as we have a colder kind of trough moving into the area, or front moving into the area on at the end of Sunday. So the big story that we've had over the last couple of weeks is we actually got a little bit of rain. Right, so this summer has been quite dry, but the last couple of weeks the area has received anywhere from quarter of an inch, half an inch, even upwards of 2 inches of rain, which you can see in this map right here. You can see that the green area represents about half an inch of rain. Yellow goes upwards to 2 inches of rain. We had a number of fires burning in Washington, and a number of them are still smoldering. Kind of waiting to see if the wind picks up or if the dryness continues, but the rain that we did get cut down on a significant amount of that smoke. We can go into kind of the drought monitor right now for Washington. You can look up here in the North Cascades area and you see that there's this area of extreme drought. We're actually in one of the worst droughts, especially the North Cascades, since at least 2015, if not a little bit earlier. Other parts of the state aren't quite as bad as we've had in recent years, but that is one of the dominating factors of our weather so far this year, with the dryness that has been ongoing since the end of last year. We can now go to this general overview of Washington. You can see a number of the fires that are burning in this area. The main fires that have been kind of pumping smoke, other than some of the fires that have been, obviously the dominating factors have been the Canadian wildfires, and they've been sending a lot of smoke our way. But in our local area, we had the Sourdough Fire, which closed Highway 20 for a while, the Blue Lake Fire, which has also led to closures of 20. But most of those fires, luckily with the rain that we received, are really not doing much. The only fire that we have to worry about now is this fire down to the south and east of Glacier Peak called the Airplane Lake Fire. And if we go to the smoke forecast, we can see that this area, so this is as of kind of earlier today, you can see that it's putting out a decent amount of smoke. This shows is the vertically integrated levels of smoke in the atmosphere.
What does vertically integrated mean, Wyatt?
Yeah, so vertically integrated means that basically if you take the smoke all the way from the ground level up through all the layers of atmosphere and kind of smush it together, this is going to show the total amount of smoke. So this might not actually correspond to the smoke that we see at the surface, but this gives a general sense of where the smoke is going, and like what areas might be impacted by that smoke. Especially, this goes out about 48 hours, so this just barely scrapes into early Saturday. So what you can see is it's kind of swirling around this weekend. So the general idea is that the areas that are going to be most impacted are going to be directly in that Glacier Peak area. So if we go into here, this Caltopo layer of where the fire activity is, you can see that kind of this area, this White River area, maybe the Napiqua, which is up here, areas to kind of the west of Glacier Peak and east might have that extra layer of haze, but honestly, it's not going to be that choking, acrid smoke that we have seen earliest this summer, especially in previous years. So we're going to go back to this view, and we're going to start talking a little bit about the upcoming weather for the weekend. So you can see that currently, so the blue areas on this map represent some of the cooler areas, some like kind of the higher chance for precipitation, what's called a trough moving through the area. And you can see that right now, today, we had a trough moving through the area, which brought some extra cloudiness. Didn't bring much precipitation, but that's kind of the standard for this time of year. As we move through Friday, so this is going to be at about 4 o'clock Friday, you can see that we have this ridge of high pressure building in to the north in Canada, which is going to lead to our really nice weather we're going to have on Saturday and above average temperatures. Then you can see that as we go through the day on Sunday, so this is about 4 o'clock on Sunday, we have this cooler trophy area that is just barely scraping by to our north and west. So that means that we might have an increased chance of precipitation and showers, but it honestly is not going to make the end of the weekend too bad of conditions. If we go in here, this shows the precipitation forecast. So you can see that this is Friday at 4 p.m. and this is for 6 hours. You can see that as we move forward, it's going to be dry through all of Saturday, through much of Sunday. But as this is 10 a.m. on Sunday, and then this is 4 p.m. on Sunday, and you can see that there's going to be a couple showers moving into the Olympics. So just be aware of that if you're recreating out there, and it might make it into the Cascades as well later on Sunday or early on Monday. We can also see that here, if we run this through, so this is kind of cloud cover, you'll see that as we go through the day Friday, almost all the clouds will disappear. And then as we move through Saturday, we're still going to have great conditions. As we get later on Sunday, you'll see this front approaching off the coast and that increasing showers, especially towards the Olympics. So now I'm going to hand it over to Kyle to talk about some of the more extended forecasts that will be coming in the upcoming weeks.
Thanks, Wyatt. So this is the European ensemble member view for the next 2 weeks. Ensemble members are like different forecast members, and they just have slightly different parameters tuned. So they're all valid forecasts, but they give us an idea of the different range of possibilities and uncertainty in the future. The top level is the cloud cover. Then we have precipitation, wind, and temperature. So what we can see from the temperature section is that it's going to increase this weekend to slightly above normal, and then decline at the beginning of next week, followed by another ascent back to seasonable or slightly above average temperatures. There's almost no notable precipitation in the forecast. Maybe a slight chance, but you can see that the median value, which is represented in by the center of the box and whisker plot, shows basically no precipitation for the next 2 weeks. So that's going to continue the drought conditions we're seeing, but also be pretty nice for recreation this fall. So next, Wyatt's going to talk about the summer that we just finished.
Yeah, so I'll just give a short overview. If you live in the Pacific Northwest, you probably know that this was a warmer and drier than average summer. So we can look at percent of normal precipitation, and you'll see that much of the area, this is starting from the beginning of June through the end of August, what's considered meteorological summer, which is that June, July, August time frame. Much of the area received like 25 to 50% of normal precipitation. If you look down here towards southeastern Oregon, you might notice a quite high percentage, like 200 to 300%. That's because of the hurricane that moved through in the last couple weeks. If we actually look at the precipitation that fell, you'll notice that most of the area saw kind of in the 1 to 2 inch range, maybe 3 inches, except for this kind of western Oregon along the coast, which saw maybe, in some areas saw even less than half an inch in the last 3 months, which is significantly below average, as we saw by the previous map. In terms of temperature, it's been generally a warmer than average summer. Generally across the area, this is going to fall into kind of the top 5 to top 10 warmest summers on record. You can see that most areas were kind of 2 to 3 degrees above average. So it wasn't crazy warm. Last summer was warmer than this, but it was another warmer than average summer, which if we go into the historical record, we see that, this is from Olympia. This is a measuring station that generally has pretty accurate data, and we can see that this is going to be the 6th warmest, or this was the 6th warmest summer on record. And a number of recent years have been in this warmest summer on record. You can see that by this graph up here, which kind of many of these summers are warmer than kind of this more standard baseline, which is goes out to the history of 1941. So yeah, definitely warmer than average, drier than average. That's really been feeding some of the drought conditions and the wildfires that have been ongoing. Considering all that, I'm kind of interested in what you might be thinking about doing this weekend, Kyle.
Well, it looks like a great weekend to get out to hike, climb, bike, whatever you're into. With the one exception that I think with such late season conditions and drought conditions that alpine routes where you require snow to cover rocks or glaciers might not be a good choice. I hiked PCT Section J from Stevens to Snoqualmie Pass last weekend, and I was really surprised by the amount of fall colors. A lot of the blueberry and heather bushes were already turning bright red and orange, so I think it'll be a great weekend to get up around tree line into the alpine meadows and start chasing for those fall colors. Do you think that the fall colors are coming on early this year, Wyatt?
Yeah, I think my experience is, I even started seeing them at the end of August, which I swear is about the first time I've seen them there. I started seeing some of the blueberries and huckleberries starting to turn red. And I think that that might honestly be because of the drought conditions that we've been having. When plants get stressed, they tend to lose their leaves earlier. Down in the lower elevations, I've even seen some of the maples kind of losing their leaves and having that really brown stress. So it does seem that they're coming earlier, but I'm not exactly sure what that will mean for the larches, which normally would be coming up at the end of September, early October.
Great. Well, thank you, Wyatt. And thank you to our listeners for listening. Please follow along and subscribe for future videos. If there's anything you're curious about or questions you have, give us feedback in the comments. We hope you have a great weekend and tune in next week for more Cascadia mountain weather.